So you've probably seen the name Nano Pro absolutely blowing up your feeds, right? It's attached to some of the most unbelievable AI images we have ever seen. But what is it really? And why does it feel like such a massive leap forward? Well, let's cut through all the hype and get right to the core of what makes this new model tick.
And hey, if you've heard the name and felt a little lost, you are so not alone. The community nickname, Wow Fun, has created a ton of confusion. Is it one model? Is it two? Is it some kind of fan project? Let's clear all of this up right now.
Okay, so here is the single most important thing you need to get right from the start. Nano Banana isn't actually one thing. It's a nickname that the community has given to two completely different models. And knowing that difference is the key to, well, unlocking everything else we're about to talk about. So let's break it down. On one hand, you have Nano Banana, which is the nickname for Gemini 2.5 Flash. Think of this one as the speed demon. It's fast, it's efficient, great for quick generations. But Nano Banana Pro, and this is the one we're focusing on today, is the nickname for Gemini 3 Pro Image. This is the powerhouse, the high-fidelity model that doesn't just generate, it actually thinks. And believe me, that word, thinks, it's not just some clever marketing buzzword. It really signals a fundamental, ground-up shift in how this AI actually works. We're moving away from models that just mimic patterns they've seen to one that can genuinely reason about what you're asking it to do before it even draws a single pixel. Here's probably the best way to wrap your head around it. Old AI was kind of like a fancy search engine for pixels. You type in cat and mat, and it would just slam those concepts together based on probability. But Nano Banana Pro? It uses what's called a reasoning core to understand relationships. It knows a cat is a distinct object that should be placed on top of the mat. It gets the logic. And this new ability to think? Well, it means the way we talk to AI has to change too. That old method of just stuffing a bunch of keywords into a prompt, what developers call tag soup, it just doesn't work anymore. Why? Because you're not talking to a search engine now. You're directing an artist. So here's a little peek behind the curtain at what's happening. When you give it a prompt, it kicks off this chain of thought process. First, it breaks down your request into logical chunks. Then it checks for any conflicts. After that, it creates a whole spatial plan, like a map of the scene. And only then does it actually start generating the image. Basically, it makes a blueprint before it starts building. So what does all this mean for us, the people actually using it? It means the old rules of prompting are officially out the window. Since the AI has changed so much, our role has to change with it. We're not just pulling the lever on a slot machine and hoping for a good result anymore. Nope, we are now the creative directors. And this is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. On the left, you've got that classic tag soup, just a jumble of keywords that the old AI would struggle to make sense of. But on the right, you have a director prompt. It's a clear, descriptive sentence. It gives logical instructions that the AI's reasoning core can actually understand and, more importantly, execute beautifully. Now, for those of you who want the absolute ultimate level of control, there's a technique that power users are calling God mode. And it involves using something called JSON. I know. It looks like scary code, but it's really just a highly organized way to give instructions. It lets you separate every single element of your scene so there is zero room for the AI to get confused. And here's why this is so ridiculously powerful. It forces the AI to segment its attention. It tells it, hey, think about the subject and the background as two totally separate things. This completely prevents that annoying concept bleed, where you ask for a blue suit and a red apple, but you end up with a red suit. Plus, you can pack in an insane amount of detail with total precision. All right, that's enough theory. Let's get into the fun stuff, the practical side of things. I'm going to share a couple of my favorite advanced tricks that will really let you unlock this model's true hidden potential. Okay, one of the most common frustrations I hear is that the model just loves to generate square images, even when you scream at it not to. Well, there's a super simple and honestly brilliant workaround for that, and it's called the canvas hack. It's a dead simple 3-step process. First, you just create a blank image in whatever size you want, say 1920 by 1080 for a video thumbnail. Then you upload that blank image along with your prompt. And finally, you just tell the AI to use this as the canvas. The model will then fill that exact shape, giving you perfect control over your aspect ratio every single time. Now, for what I think is the holy grail for a lot of creators, character consistency. I mean, how do you get the exact same face to show up in a bunch of different images? For this, we use a special protocol called the identity lock. Here's how you pull it off. You give the AI a reference buffer, that's just 3 to 5 good images of your character. Then you give it an explicit command, something like maintain 100% facial consistency with the references. And then you specify that only certain things, like the clothes or the background, should change. This really leverages that reasoning core to understand what's permanent and what's variable. Okay, let's ground all this in the real world for a second. This is an incredible tool, for sure. But how do you actually get access to it? What's it going to cost you? And maybe most importantly, how do you avoid the scams that are already popping up everywhere? Listen up, because this is important. There are only 3 official ways to access Nano Banana Pro. You've got Google AI Studio, which is mainly for developers and power users. There's the Gemini Advanced app, which is the main way for regular consumers to use it, and that needs a subscription. And then there's Vertex AI for big business level stuff. That's it. Anywhere else is not legit. Now, let's talk money. In AI Studio, a single high-resolution generation is going to run you about 24 cents. See, this isn't a free-for-all. And that cost really underlines why learning to prompt with precision is so vital. You can't afford to just mash the generate button 100 times, hoping for a good one. You've got to engineer your prompt to work on the first try. And this brings us to a very, very serious warning. The viral nature of the Nano Banana name has unfortunately created a whole thriving ecosystem of scams that are targeting people who just don't know any better. Here's their playbook, so you can spot it a mile away. They'll register domain names that sound official and promise you free, unlimited access to the good stuff. But then, after they get your payment info, they just run your prompt through a cheap, old, open-source model. So you end up losing your money, getting a terrible image, and your payment details might be compromised. So please remember this one crucial takeaway. If the website address doesn't end in google.com, aistudio.google.com, or vertex.ai, it is not legitimate. It's a simple rule, but it will keep you and your money safe. Period. So, to wrap this all up, Nano Banana Pro isn't just another small update. It really feels like we've entered a whole new era of what's called reasoned synthesis. The AI is no longer just a tool we're using, it's becoming a collaborative partner that can actually understand our intent, plan its own work, and execute these incredibly complex creative visions. This fundamentally changes everything we thought was possible with generative art. A lot of the old limits are just gone. So the only real question left is this. Now that you can direct an AI that truly thinks, what will you create?